Today, the Pledge of Allegiance will be delivered by our very own Representative Lindstedt.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Shebo, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Armagost, Bacon, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Rep. Bockenfeld,
Excused.
Basenecker, Doherty,
Excused.
DeGraff. Oh, I'm all out of order. Sorry. Bradfield. Bottoms. Bradley. Brown. Catlin. Doherty.
Excused.
Yeah. There's DeGraff is here. Degree Kennedy. Dixon. Duran. English.
I'm here.
Epps. Evans. Frizzell. Froelich. Garcia. Hamrick. Hartsook is excused. Hernandez. Herod. Holtorf. Judah.
Here.
Joseph. Rep. Joseph.
Excused.
Kip.
Here.
Leader. Lindsay. Linstead. Luck. Lukens is excused. Lynch. Mabry. Representative Mabry.
Excused.
Marshall. Rep. Marshall.
Excused.
Martinez. Morrow. McCormick.
Here.
McLaughlin. Ortiz.
Here.
Parenti. Parenti's excused. Puglisi. Ricks is excused. Rutinel. Representative Rutinel. Sharbini. Sirota. Sirota's excused.
Excused.
Snyder. Soper.
Here.
Story. Taggart. Titone. Valdez A. Velasco. Vigil. Weinberg. Weissman. Wilford. Wilson. Winter. Woodrow. Young. And Madam Speaker.
Here. With 55 present, 10 excused, we do have a quorum. Representative Lindstedt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday morning. I move that the Journal of Saturday, November 18th be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
Members, you've heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All those say in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
No.
The motion is adopted. Madam Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker and members, I'd like
Members,
to hold...
can we have your attention, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's hold a moment of silence for the victims and survivors of the massacre at Club Q in Colorado Springs that occurred 1 year ago today, especially the 5 precious lives that were tragically cut short. Daniel Davis Aston, Ashley Paugh, Kelly Loving, Derek Rump, and Raymond Green Weiss. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Members, the next item on the calendar is third reading of bills. Mr. Schiebel, please read the title to House Bill 1001.
House Bill 1001 by Representatives Lindsay and Harrod, also Senators Gonzalez and Buckner, concerning measures to protect residential tenants in Colorado.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move House Bill 1001 on third reading and final passage.
The motion before us is the adoption of House Bill 1001 on third reading, final passage. Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd have to say I was chagrined yesterday when I was stopped from help changes to legitimate tax relief, but that's a settled question, and it's not the intent of this body. But the purpose that I'm coming up for in opposition to this bill, because it was asked to me yesterday, what's wrong with giving people money instead of providing tax relief? And I thought that was a valid question, and it required a little bit of thought. So what is the problem of, well, there's fiscally the problem of taking money that the government took by threat of force and then redistributing it. That's a moral problem. But then we also have some other issues. And one, I would say, and I broke it down into dignity, efficiency, and fraud. Dignity. Yesterday, the people of Colorado were robbed of their dignity. Because in order to get relief from the growing burden of taxation, now I know nobody likes to say getting the boot of government off the neck of the people, but those are the people wearing the boots. But dignity does not come from asking the government for money. A grant program forces the citizens of Colorado to approach the nanny state with their hand out and say, "Please, sir, may I have some more?" And the state, in its benevolence, will either grant it or delay. I get reports every day, maybe not every day, but regularly, because the people who need unemployment assistance are blocked because somebody fraudulently applied for unemployment assistance. So the only thing I can figure out is that unemployment fraud is easier than applying for actual unemployment. But these people have to come to the government and say, please.
Representative DeGraff, please focus back on rental assistance and the policy in this bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My point here is around the grant program, which is going to the government and saying, please, nanny state, may I have some more? Because what the government gives is what the government first took away. And then the government is going to fill its coffers again by taking it away again. And this is considered beneficence. So dignity. It's dignity to keep your own money. It's not dignity to have to beg for somebody else's. And it's not dignity to have to beg for it. and it is. Efficiency, a percentage reduction. There is handling fees in all of these processes. What the government takes, if the government takes $100, it does not give $100 back into the economy. It gives a fraction of that. It gives a fraction of that. There are the shipping and handling fees, as it were. If you give it actual tax relief, then what you have is 100% of that money staying in the individual's pocket and helping the entire economy. So this is the nanny state saying we know best, and we're going to pick winners and losers to receive the money that we stole from the people under threat of force. At the point of a gun.
Representative DeGraff.
Madam Speaker, if you don't pay your taxes, somebody with a gun will show up.
Representative DeGraff. Please do not refer.
Okay.
Representative DeGraff, last warning. Please stay focused on the content of the policy. Thank you.
And then there's the aspect, and I've kind of already touched on that, and that's fraud. And we touched on that yesterday with the EITC program and the taking of $330 million out of the excesses tax from the people of Colorado. And it's the IRS estimate that 33% of that, about a third of that, is going to go to fraud and mistakes. Just oops. Why? Because there's just really no accountability for that money. It's just thrown around. So we have dignity, efficiency, and fraud. So by doing a grant program, especially a grant program that is probably like the EITC, going to go to non-Social Security holders, or who knows where it's going to go. But it's not going to go back to the people of Colorado, and it's not going to provide property tax relief. So those are three of there's probably some more reasons. But I thought dignity, efficiency, and fraud were three pretty decent reasons why you should actually give tax relief instead of doling out money, or part of the money, I should say, doling out part of the money, a fraction of the money that was seized from the people, in that manner. So that is my answer to the question. What's wrong with just giving people money that the government seized? Dignity, efficiency, and fraud.
Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. I'm going to read from the bill so there's no question. First part, Section 1. Home values are rising at historic rates across Colorado, and with the failure of Prop HH, 60% of the vote, Coloradans now face an unprecedented and immediate crisis with an anticipated 40% average increase in property tax bills unless the legislator enacts a solution to reduce pending increases in property tax bills. 4 bills, haven't seen anything on decreasing property tax. Increased property taxes impact not only homeowners, let me read that again. Increased property taxes impact not only homeowners, but also renters who invariably bear the burden of increased costs on landlords in the form of increased rent. So I'm gonna try to dumb it down and try to make myself understand it. If we actually had a bill to reduce property taxes, then owners wouldn't increase rent and we wouldn't have to pass a bill for $60 million, right? I mean, it's simple. The voters have asked us to come and do simple and clean property tax relief, and instead we're passing rental assistant bills and food bills and all these different bills when all they asked you guys to do is come and pass clean and simple property tax relief. We talk about a third of our community that are renters. Let me do the math. That means 66% are homeowners. And they've asked you to stand and help them stay in their homes. They've asked you to reduce the burden put on them and reduce their property taxes. And instead, we come up with everything but reducing their property taxes. And just in case you didn't know, since everyone's paying close attention, cities in Colorado with the highest home ownership, Centennial, I know you're here. Highlands Ranch, I know you're here. Arvada, 76%. Thornton, 74%. Broomfield, 67%. Loveland, 66%. Westminster, 64%. Aurora, 61%. The list goes on and on. Why are we forgetting about the people that own homes in Colorado? Talking about renters. If you reduce the property taxes on homeowners, then the renters don't need any assistance. It's that simple. But instead, we have a 2-month magic number that we're going to pass rental assistance and everything's just going to magically go back to normal. You still have not helped the people who are at risk of losing their homes. You are coming down here for the last 3 days and not presenting a single bill to help the people with the property taxes that they are so desperately in need of help for. You are ignoring them. Let that sink in. They have asked you to represent them, that 60% of them said no on Prop HH. 60% of your constituents said no. Do not steal our money and come down in this special session that your governor called you to do and help us with property tax relief. In Centennial, 80% of people own homes. In Centennial, 80% of people own homes. Provide property tax relief. Say no to bills like this and actually come back to the table and provide property tax relief. I strongly urge a no vote on this nonsense.
Representative Bottoms.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for recognizing my constitutional right to stand in this well and speak, unlike yesterday. The reason that we are here is because, again, Prop HH. This is a special session, so everything has to deal with this. The reality of us having a rental assistance program, if we really take the trail here, the train of thought, is that property tax is going through the roof, so property owners have to charge more rent, so we give rental assistance to property tax, people that are paying property taxes. And I think one of the sponsors of the bill said that it's because they either get potential for displacement or eviction. The problem with that thought process is last session we passed a bill that said renters don't have to pay rent. They can go 3 months up to 6 months if they don't have to pay rent, and they won't be penalized or anything like that for it, and they can't be evicted for it. And so now then the property taxes go through the roof, so the same thing that was a direct attack on property owners from last session is a direct attack on property owners this time. See, we're giving the rental assistance to renters that don't have to pay rent, and on top of that, we're still making sure that these property owners are paying outrageous property taxes. But they can't do anything to offset that. They can't raise rent or anything like that to offset that because that's already been addressed. So now everybody potentially, and this actually doesn't give any money, real money to help people in any of these situations. But then on top of that, the property owners are still having, nothing has changed. They still have to pay the property taxes. So somebody owns a house that they grew up in, now they're renting that out and they have another house. Now they're paying property taxes on that house they're renting, but they can't evict the person. That person gets assistance, all this other stuff that's happening, but the property owner is still gonna lose their home. The property owner is still gonna lose their home because the taxes are going through the roof. And when the emergency glass was broken, the governor said at that point, we have got to fix the property tax issue. And again, as I've said, every single bill that I was actually allowed to talk on, when I said this, it's the fact that the governor broke the glass. So for what reason? For us to come here and figure this out. And as I was mentioning to many online reporters yesterday and even some stations about what happened in here, I was explaining to them that the voters of Colorado are actually going to walk away from this special session The voters of Colorado are going to walk away with more government people hired, less money than they started before. If we would not have had this special session, the Colorado voters would have been better off. But now we're hiring more people, costing more money to the government, putting more money in different funds, and trying to take from Tabor, although that's still not what was supposed to happen. And the voters of Colorado, it would have been better if we would not have broke the glass. Because now it's going to cost us more than theoretically we came here to have less. We have got to stop this and actually take care of some kind of taxes. And again, this bipartisan mentality that was online like crazy last night, that somehow we're trying to handle this in a bipartisan way, but my side of the aisle is not doing this. We're throwing up amendments, we're putting bills forward, we're doing everything we can to try to do $1 for property tax. And it's getting shot down every single time.
Representative Bottoms, encourage you to come back to this bill before the body. Thank you.
So before we can actually save one tax dollar, we've got to actually think about what bipartisan means. Can we actually do that? It hasn't happened. People of Colorado, the Republicans are trying.
Representative DeGraff.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I know I only have a couple minutes left, but I was looking out at the crowd of eager faces this morning. There was some smirking or jeering about what I had to say about the lack of dignity, efficiency, and the fraud induced by such a program. But reading through it, I thought it was a good thing to. So, what are the first things? Household income of 80% or less of the median income. Okay, not 100% of the median income. This is not 80% of the overall income. This is 80%. This is only 80% or less for the median. So this means anybody over 20% of the median income is not going to qualify for this grant. To receive a grant, the individual must apply. So this is where I said, and it was met with rolled eyes. This is the please, sir, may I have some more? Where you have to ask the nanny state for this money. A grant to an individual must apply. That individual must come to the government with hat in hand to ask for money that was extracted from their fellow citizens. That's immoral. Paying utility bills. Well, those are going through the roof because of idiotic energy policies. Paying cost of relocation. That's not rent. Project delivery costs. Oh, here we get to it. Project delivery cost. Paying for project delivery costs associated with application review. Somebody's got to review these applications. Oh, who's that going to be? That's going to be more government. So the solutions so far are not genuine tax relief, but they're growing government. The application is determined by the division, paying cost of administering the grant program. So now we have to have somebody review them when somebody comes with their hat in hand, and somebody's got to make sure that their hat is truly empty, and then they have to, but only if it's 80% of that program. So this is 80% of the median income. So that immediate eliminates 20% of the people that are above the median income, and then in that median income, the 20% in that median income, and then 100% of the people that are above. So the median income, let's just say math-wise, I mean median, mean, all those different things, all those things that everybody loves about math, but that's 50%, and then you take another 20%. This is 70% of the Coloradans does not apply.
Representative DeGraff, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So tax relief for all of Colorado includes growing government and eliminating 70% of the people in Colorado. Now, where could this come from? Well, we know that the governor probably has about at least $150 million in his slush fund, and he said this is a priority. It probably should have come out of his slush fund. It's only $30 million, wafer thin. Did the governor pony up any of his money for that? Nope. It's growing government. It's growing government. It's creating more bodies in that government, and we know that there is nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. These bodies will be rolled in because this is not going to solve the problem because we're not dealing with it. Colorado, this bill right here is growing government and eliminating 70% of the population of Colorado. This is not tax relief. It is not tax relief, period.
Thank you, Representative DeGraff. Your time is up. Representative Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Whoa. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
Representative Catlin, it is an honor to serve with you.
Thank you, ma'am. Members, I'm down here today. I want to talk about something that my colleagues haven't spoken about yet, but it's something that concerns me about the way we do business. We're going to take government money, up to $30 million from what I see in this one, and we're going to put it out to help people with their rent. An honorable idea. I think those are the kind of things government might want to think about. But HH and all of the things that come into the decisions are what we're discussing right now. But what I want to bring attention to is the state of Colorado has some very fine employees, people that make a good living doing the things that we ask them to do here in the state of Colorado, through their agencies, through the bureaus that they serve. Yet we continue to set up programs where we hire non-government organizations, nonprofits, to do the work of dispersing the state's dollars. That's not cheap. The dollars that we spend for that don't get to the person who needs the rent. They don't get to the dollars of the people who need the help with what we are trying to help. I worry that we're getting to the point that we are highly staffed. Lots of people have jobs with the state of Colorado, good jobs. Yet we continue to hire people outside of government that we put the dollars into when we have people on staff that could be doing these very same things. They could be doing them in my counties, your counties, everyone's counties, because we have that kind of government. So I worry about how effective are we being when we do these things that ask us to do something that will help others. The people that are needing the rental assistance, I'll argue that one way or the other, it doesn't matter. My point is that an individual must apply to the division's statewide application portal, and grant money may be expended only by a nonprofit organization that contracts with the division. So the state hires somebody to handle the money because we took their application through our portal. The information goes to the NGO. The NGO then contacts the people and checks or help start to come. I've run companies that had to get grants, and we got the grants. But when we did, the people that managed the grants took 3, 5, 10, 12%, which meant that those grant funds did not come to my agency and my company to put that pipe in the ground or to do the things that my company did. We paid a fee. We're in a time of need, right? We keep hearing that. Renters need help, landlords need help, everybody needs help. The first thing we do is help an NGO. And then they go about helping our citizens. We have people in the state of Colorado that could be doing these jobs. Should be doing these jobs, is my opinion. It bothers me that this is one of the things we turn to quickly. It's almost become a way of doing business. I'm sorry that today is the day I had to bring it up because it says to me we are not putting what we said we were going to put towards the issue because we're going to pay people first. And it happens in a lot of our bills, folks. We see this. It's becoming a way of doing business. It's probably not necessary because we have staff, we have professionals, we have people that work for us in the state of Colorado that I would put up against any other state's employees about their skills, abilities, and talents. I think we should be using them because we're already paying them. The people that we're trying to help are paying them. So it's something for us to think about. You know that I'm going to be a no on this bill. So I wanted to make this point as something to think about as we come back. And it's also something to think about here. If it is that big a deal, why don't we do it to where all of the dollars get to where we want them to go? Thank you.
Representative Weinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning. It's a pleasure to work with you.
It is, did you say special?
Pleasure.
Pleasure. It is a pleasure to work with you as well, Rep.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, fellow colleagues. I rise this morning in opposition to this bill. I wanted to make sure that everyone heard again that we are here, day number 3, in a special session called to fix a problem, and we have still not done that. With the failure of Proposition HH, followed by many constituent requests, especially my constituents in the city of Loveland, it is clear Coloradoans believe there is a need for property tax relief. This bill does not do that. I am worried of a set trend happening, with bills that led us to this room today being proposed really quickly, and now more bills being proposed even quicker to further hurt people that are in dire need, specifically our seniors on fixed income. My additional issue with this bill, specifically, I tried to introduce a bill. I worked with the other side of the aisle. I spent days with the short notice we had with a fellow colleague of yours. And it took but 15 minutes to get shot. I thought we were here to work together. I know that we are in a super minority. I thought we were here to talk about issues that both of us can bring to the table. So far, if you've seen that happen, please tell me, because I have not.
Representative Weinberg, I'll invite you back to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have an affordability crisis that this bill does not address. I ask you, with one more day left, to stop hurting the voters of Colorado with bills that will not help them, including this one. And again, I urge a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Taggart.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
I've been accused over my life of being very, very pragmatic. My wife would take it a step further and say her husband is anal. I probably would not argue that with her. So I'm going to be a little pragmatic right now. This bill, to me, is out of order in the way we should be looking at things. It's out of order in the sense that our minority leader presented a bill within committee that should have been on this floor, but it did not get there. And now we have a Senate bill coming to us with property tax relief. Why is that important to me from a pragmatic standpoint and from an order standpoint? That addresses property taxes, whether I agree with the bill or not, it addresses property taxes. And the question is this rental assistance then necessary going forward? Because when you read this bill, it is for future in addition to present and past. And in the future also potentially has relocation involved in it. So now we're going to take this bill out of order. I'm not going to be able to stop it. But we're going to take this bill out of order and we're going to agree upon it when in fact there are components of this bill and funds that may not be necessary once we do property tax relief for multifamily housing or residential housing that when the residence is being rented. That just from a pragmatic standpoint does not make any sense to me. It really doesn't. And I can't support it because of that primarily, because this should be in behind what we do in terms of property tax relief, because that is the number one reason we are here. And in my case, I can't go home for Thanksgiving. So thank you.
Representative Winter.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and thank you.
Good morning.
I'm up here to reiterate something that my colleague and good friend from the Montrose area said, is what non-governmental organization is handling this money? Why the middleman? I mean, how much are they pulling off the top to do this? And even though I'll be a no vote on this bill as well, if you're gonna spend the money, why are we putting money there? I mean, we already have the bureaucracy in place to handle this. And why are we sending money to them that should be going to the people? And all I ask you, Colorado, is follow the money trail and the players involved. Take a look at this, break it down. Let's hold government responsible. If they want to push this money, why aren't you getting 100% of that money? Why does somebody always have to pull the cream off the top? And once again, Colorado, I wish we could discuss a bill that actually relieves people of the property tax issue, and we could address property tax. And I said something in the well yesterday, and I'm glad I said it because I received a bunch of emails and phone calls last night from constituents, not only in my district, but everywhere else. I want to reiterate it one more time. Being a property owner, especially in rural Colorado, there's not a whole lot of luck to it. There's a whole lot of work. Drought, hail, flood, lose your crops, blood, sweat, and tears, hours of hard work. That isn't luck. Not whatsoever. That's a slap in the face. It's not luck. I was raised by a grandfather and a father that said, you know what, Ty? Sometimes you make your own luck through hard work. And I will stand here and defend the property owners in the state of Colorado that worked hard for what they have, who sacrificed for what they have. And I will not let anybody in this chamber diminish that, because it's important. We should be in here working for people, not laying down the grounds for class warfare. I'll be a no on this.
Representative Frizzell.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Thank you. I think that I've been down in this well enough times for you all to understand my great passion about small and effective government. A government that actually serves the people, and a government that makes a difference in people's lives in a positive way. And a government that is transparent and accountable. And this type of setup is anything but transparent, and it's anything but accountable to the people who fund it. It's like following a trail of breadcrumbs. We know the money starts here with the Department of Housing, and then it's distributed through this grant program that these nonprofit organizations, partner agencies, these are, they may be nonprofits, but they sure pay staff. There is administrative overhead that they are not accountable to the citizens of this state for. They are not even transparent. I looked up who are these partners? Who are these organizations? And where are they? The City of Aurora, Boulder County, Brothers Redevelopment, Inc., which I found to be, I believe, a Denver organization, Colorado Housing Assistance Corporation, Community and Economic Development Project, which is, I believe, a national organization, Denver Housing Authority, La Puente, Neighbor to Neighbor, NeighborWorks, News Ed, Northeast Denver Housing Center, Rocky Mountain Community Land Trust, Total Concept, and the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments. I actually went on the websites to find out where these organizations are. We talk a lot in this chamber. We talk a lot about honoring diversity, being inclusive. In fact, in a bill that we were discussing just yesterday and the day before, we amended this particular bill to actually include, this is the task force bill, where we amended it to say the commission shall consist of 18 members that represent, and this is the important part, the demographic and geographic diversity of the state as follows. My point is, that language is not in this bill. There is zero assurance, zero, that these funds are going to be distributed throughout the state. There is no direction whatsoever. I had the opportunity to chat with one of the bill sponsors yesterday about this because I am concerned. There are areas of this state that are being left in the dust. Those citizens who are in need, there's no money left by the time the big boys gulp all the dollars down. There are, out of all the list, all of those organizations that I listed, who are benefactors of this money, who are making money or paying those employees, managers, administrators, I'm guessing sometimes pretty decent salaries, but we don't know because there's no transparency around that. Of all of those organizations, only 4 of them existed outside of Denver, or are based outside of Denver, with the exception of the 2 federal organizations which are in Washington, D.C. So, why does that matter? I think it matters a lot. If I live in Delta County and I need rent assistance, I think it matters a lot. If I'm up in Moffett County and I've lost my job because we closed down a coal plant or something like that, it matters a lot that if we are going to be distributing funds, that they be distributed in a diverse and inclusive manner. I am a no vote on this bill for a lot of reasons, and for a lot of the reasons you've already heard from my colleagues. I didn't want to beat the proverbial dead horse on that, but I think that this is a real problem with this legislation. And I strongly, strongly encourage y'all to think about amending it for that reason. Thank you.
Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
And I greatly appreciate your leadership as you maintain and restore order and the dignity of this chamber. I hearken the words from your predecessor, Alec Garnett, who always said that decorum and the respect of the colleagues in this chamber is utmost as we do the people's work in the people's house. I will strive every day, in every way, to meet the words of Alec Garnett. Even though some days I may slip, I would ask for a little bit of grace if I do, through the leadership of the majority. Thank you, Madam, for your leadership.
Thank you, Representative Holtorf. To the bill.
Yes, ma'am. As I start my day doing the people's work, I look at House Bill 23B 101. If I had my wishes, I would wish to see a bill that said Emergency Property Tax Assistance Program. But that's not what I see in the marquee as I talk about House Bill 23B 101, Emergency Rental Assistance Grant Program. Now, I too saw the political theater that was the governor breaking the glass. Yes, governor's staff, the entire state saw it. Well, the glass is still broken, and I don't think anybody's cleaning it up. And we're not going to do it in this extraordinary special session, unfortunately. Or perhaps with one bill out of 7 or 8 coming out of both chambers, and only one of them, unfortunately, addressing the matter. Now, in my humble opinion, and I sit in the minority, the only bill that we should be talking about is that one bill, Emergency Property Tax Assistance Program. Now, I will talk specifically to this bill because this bill does have flaws. And the cost burdens will be passed on to others that are taxpayers that provide the money that goes to the general fund. Or the fees in this state that are applied to the citizens as they try to live in this state that are mentioned in the revised fiscal note that I'm looking at dated November 18th, 2023, Madam Speaker. Cash funds of, in this case, $30 million expenditure, not all of which coming out of cash funds, but $14,900,000. Now, the problem with this, my esteemed colleagues, is that as we grow government, we have to increase our fees so we can continue to garner cash funds so we can leverage them in these type of programs. That's also hurting Colorado citizens. For those that we try to help, everyone else will be harmed fiscally. Unfortunately. Now, here is the striking reality, and I don't mean to insult anyone in this chamber because we all took, many of us, economics in college. Economics 101, we took macroeconomics and microeconomics, and then in graduate school we also took varying levels of economics and quantitative and qualitative analysis and other classes that taught us how money moves and how in a free market economy the impacts of supply and demand affect the price elasticity of supply and demand, and many other economic factors. And if we don't pay attention to some of those things, then we have flawed public policy. And I didn't graduate with an economics degree, and I'm not going to pretend that I understand it fully and wholly. But I will tell you one thing. Here is the reality of what we do today. as we don't directly solve the property tax issue or give property tax relief to those landlords that own property, we indirectly will cause rents to go up. Think about it. If housing demand is still suppressed, which it is, and our ability to build the housing that's needed for our citizens is delayed by increased rule and regulation, so we can't build the homes fast enough. And then we make the cost of doing business greater because we don't address the property tax. It will go up 20, 30, 40%. What will the landlords do as they analyze their small business? And oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, most landlords, not all, but particularly mom and pop businesses who do a little property management on the side with either their home or their mother's home or their father's home that they're renting out, they have to cover the additional expenses. And they will be forced to raise the rents to cover the additional property tax increases. I don't think this bill addresses that in any way. So are we truly helping Colorado? Will this program, and my colleague from Montrose said it very well. He said, how much of that money is going to get down to the people that really need it? Because as the state gives the money, and I know the bill sponsors have been contacted by many of these nonprofits during stakeholder work. I would assume nothing else. I imagine they were very aggressive. And you know how I know that, colleagues? Look at the number. House Bill 23B1001. This was the first bill that hit the table. Bam. So we're not thinking about property tax relief, despite the breaking glass that's still on the floor, Governor. We're thinking about other things. Other things that indirectly only are going to cause rent to rise. Along with the factors that affect this rise. Supply of housing. Demand for housing. Expenses for landlords to maintain the property and offer the property. Construction, repair, remodeling costs, all going up. Materials, lumber, all going up. Energy costs going up for every business due to policy promulgated right in this chamber and through the governor's energy office. Flawed policy that increases energy costs. But I'm not going to talk about that, Madam Speaker. It wouldn't be fair because we're here to talk about property tax. Or are we? Property tax relief, or are we? Rather, renters assistance grant program. Now, I only have a couple minutes left, so I want to talk about something that I think is very important. As a cursory study of history, and maybe I got a B or C, I'm not sure, there was a famous father of our country named John Adams. I believe he was from Boston, Massachusetts. And he said some very important words during the birth of our country, and I want to paraphrase. Extracting more taxation than is necessary is nothing more than tyranny. So, Governor, and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, I would like to point out there is no...
Representative Holtorf, you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There is no tax surplus. There is no tax refund. There isn't any variation of that tax. That is taxpayer money. And if you don't return it to them, it is tyrannous. And more importantly, in the words of John Adams, some in my district, my constituents, would call it legalized larceny. So give the money back to the people. It's their money, not yours. And we are not doing that today with this bill, and I still don't think I've seen any bill that does that. And those are the words of John Adams, not Representative Holtorf. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
I've been honored by my good friend and colleague from Denver to come down because I had some concerns that I was sharing with her with regards to what...
Representative Marshall,
Is
I
this
think...
not on?
There we go.
Man, you have to get real close to this thing, don't you? Yeah, I don't know how to do any of those funny noises, so I won't try. But I was pleased that my good friend and colleague from Denver, I was sharing some thoughts, and finally my friend said, well, why don't you go down and share some of those thoughts? I'm tired of hearing Prop HH, and this is why we're here, property taxes, property taxes, property taxes. As I explained yesterday, I don't think there's a single member in this chamber that has a bigger explanation to do to their voters that may believe the only reason we are here is for property taxes because Prop HH failed. That may be a catalyst, but as I mentioned yesterday, we have a huge issue with inflation, which is what caused the property taxes to increase exponentially. But it's also increasing rents exponentially. And we have colleagues, and we're here together to solve problems for everyone across the state. And there are places that have rent issues. And the externalities of a family being evicted are gigantic. They are gigantic and they're long-term. And we have colleagues that have explained that to us. So if we can do something to prevent many of these families from being evicted in this time, we should do it rather than having to face the consequences 20 or 30 years later down the line of the snowballing effect of some young child getting evicted, and God knows what happens, again, as the ball rolls down the hill. So I can explain this to my voters, and as I explained before, we down in Highlands Ranch, we probably do have the lowest Gini coefficient in the entire state, meaning we probably have the least wealth inequality within my district. So all my constituents, they pretty much all believe we're all middle class because we compare ourselves just to our neighbors. No one wins the lottery and wants to go live in Highlands Ranch. And the truth is, probably a lot of people that win the lottery in Highlands Ranch would probably go to Coronado or New York or go somewhere else. So I can explain this to my voters. And I explained why there was one bill I couldn't explain and I couldn't support and I had to vote against. But this one, just $30 million to prevent some families from being evicted, I can support that wholeheartedly. And the efficiency argument, there is always some dead weight loss in any program, but this 1.6 FTEs, I asked my good friend and colleague, well, I'm a big believer in efficiency. That's one of the reasons I are a very strong fiscal conservative, because money is valuable. If we're spending tax money, we want to make sure it's effective. So 1.6 FTEs. Was any amendment ever offered to say, well, there's another part of this government where we can move 1.6 FTEs over? No, I did not hear any of those. I asked my colleague. So if you're going to complain about a problem, you ought to offer a solution. So in the end, again, if we're going to keep complaining about property taxes, that's not the only reason we're here. That may be what a lot of our voters at home may think, but it's not. And we're here to be the responsible people. And again, this is a bill that goes to several of the problems in the state, and I'm proud to support it. Thank you.
Assistant Minority Leader Puglisi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I came up here to say a couple of other things, but I very much disagree with my colleague from Douglas County that we are not here in a special session called in an emergency because of property tax. That is the only reason we're here. Because counties can't develop their budgets without knowing what the state assessment rate is. Because people are going to be getting their property tax bills in January. And with the failure of HH, we're going to see in some areas, not the whole state, 40% increases. And that is exactly why a special session was called. So I disagree with my colleague. I also very strongly disagree with my colleague that no solutions were offered, because I have been trying to offer solutions since last August, before I was even formally a member of this body, along with my fellow colleague from Douglas County. So don't say that. It's not fair. You don't want to agree with our solutions, that's one thing, but to say we had nothing to offer is not fair. Besides that, what I was
Assistant
going...
Minority Leader Puglisi, back to the bill.
That's where I'm going.
Thank you.
Now I'm going back to my original speech. So my original speech was, I wanted to echo the sentiments of my colleague for Montrose County. Apparently his statements were very powerful for our caucus because we keep stealing your lines. Everyone in Colorado needs help, and I agree with that. We are here to offer them help, and I agree with that because they do. I mean, everything costs more: gas, housing, groceries. Gosh, my grocery bill, and my kids aren't really big eaters, is enormous every week, and I struggle like many of you do in this room, so I understand that. And I was a renter. The last 3 weeks, I was renting for a part of session last year. The last 3 weeks of session, my landlord, through no fault of his own, had a change in circumstance and had to kick me out of my house. I'm a single mom with 2 kids. My whole family's in New York. My mom and my sisters are my best friends. I had nothing, and I had no idea, and we were spending a lot of time here. So I cannot tell you the stress that I was under trying to find a place so that my family and I were not homeless. So I understand that. I do, personally understand that. And understand that renters need help too. So I just want to put that on the record. I do have a couple of concerns about this bill. I also want to acknowledge the work of the sponsors. I had a concern that I brought to one of the bill sponsors, my colleague in Aurora, about security of information, because there is a statewide portal that people have to upload their information. And as we know, there was a recent security breach in education that all of people's information was exposed. And she was very receptive to making sure, I know this bill's gonna pass, that we take whatever steps we need to make sure that people's personal information is protected. And she was very receptive to that comment, and I very much appreciate that. I also want to appreciate 2 comments that my colleague from Denver had said in committee. One was that we're not using Tabor refunds, and I very much appreciated that you put that in the record, and I didn't have to find the fiscal note, which I didn't have at the time, to figure that out. So thank you. And the other thing I want to say to my colleague in Denver is that you also offered that you would share rental information with people in their districts so that we can see how it would affect people in our district specifically. And while there's not time for me to digest that now, I do think that's part of the larger affordability conversation, and I appreciate you offering resources for me to understand my district better. So for what it's worth, I appreciate those 2 comments. Along with the fiscal note, the $30 million is coming out of existing appropriations and not Tabor refunds. I appreciate that. But what it reminds me is that the biggest policy document out of everything we do, the biggest policy document that we put forth as legislators is the budget, right? When you put money to a program, that means it's a priority. And we are able, if we so choose, to prioritize property tax relief in this session and find the money in our existing budgets to give further and stronger and honest and real property tax relief to our citizens, which is why I believe we are here. And so it reminded me that we can find the money if we so prioritize it. We can do more for everyone in Colorado if we so choose. But it takes time and effort and work to find that money in the budget. And my colleague in Douglas County, I could tell you a few ways we could find some money in the budget within existing appropriations if you're so interested. But I do just want to put some of that stuff on the record because I think it's important. I believe that we need to do more for property tax owners in this special session. I think we need to do more for Coloradans in the general session around affordability and truly bring back Colorado to a place that's affordable for all of us to live. And so, unfortunately, I'm a no vote, but I do appreciate the work of the sponsors and the conversations that we had. And I hope that when we finally get to actually talking about property tax, that it is real and honest property tax relief without Tabor refunds that we can bring to our people, which is the work that we need to finish up before we go home for Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Representative Bradley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to disagree with the representative from Douglas County. There was an amendment to expand relief, and it was specifically blocked. If you're forgetting, I'll remind you by a title challenge. The original bill was concerning measures to protect residential tenants in Colorado. It is now concerning creation of the Emergency Rental Assistance Grant Program. So to say that it wasn't challenged and we weren't doing our due diligence is wrong, and it's false. This bill excludes 70% of people. In Highlands Ranch, 80% of people are homeowners. And I would love to see us come together to fight for the homeowners, which are 80% in your district, to provide property tax relief. If we're going to come to the well, let's speak truth. Thank you.
Representative Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's an honor to serve with you.
And an honor to serve with you.
Colleagues, I come to rise in support of House Bill 23B 1001. And the main reason why I'm down here is, you know, everybody knows I'm from the San Luis Valley, and I am a staunch advocate for what we have here and our way of life, our culture, and what we bring to the table. So I'd be remiss if I didn't come down when I hear conversations about some of the organizations down there. And I guess I just want some clarity in what we do and how we do it. So one organization that was brought up in previous representative's speech was on La Puente Health Systems, or La Puente Systems. And so really, what does that do? And what do they do? And why is this bill gonna really affect them and what they're able to do? So this whole organization is based on trying to get people housed and keep them housed. And so there are various organizations that they have. So they have family resource centers, crisis prevention resources, food bank networks, children's programs, thrift stores, and rethreads to being able to resell materials, garden programs, and all of those profits for those go into feeding the shelter and getting rental assistance for people that need it. And so as far as accountability goes, what happens with that? So they work consistently with local city councils, local commissioners, to making sure that they're on track, that they're doing what they need to do, and making sure that that accountability piece is there, and making sure that they can continue to do what they need for their community and being able to continue to expand their services. So how is this bill gonna help them? This bill is going to be able to provide more rental assistance to people and allowing them to serve even more people and those people that are in need in the entire San Luis Valley. So this isn't one county, this is the entire San Luis Valley. So this is going to be impactful for that organization, it's going to be impactful for the people of the San Luis Valley and throughout Colorado. So I rise in support.
Minority Leader Lynch.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I want to stick with the first one to say it's special to serve with you.
It's special to serve with you as well.
Well, members, here we are. I think we might have more, but I think my members have covered pretty much everything we can talk about on this, but let me recap. Kind of some basic points about what we don't like about this bill. So number one, this says nothing to do with property tax. And I know there's some confusion about why we're here, but I believe we're here to fix property tax. I mean, yes, this is an attempt to fix one of the symptoms of a messed up system, but it's not the cause and not the focus. So that's the first issue. Number two, this is a clear redistribution of wealth with folks that are now going to have to help those that don't. It's a redistribution of wealth. That's the second thing. Number three, one of the things we heard today was that, though it wasn't directly said, but economic development, let me say this clearly, economic development is not the creation of a government job. So just by creating government jobs, we're not doing economic development. But the part I really want to talk about is 48 minutes and 19 seconds. Let me say that again. 48 minutes and 19 seconds. And that is the amount of time that our ideas and our thoughts about how to fix this problem were alive in committee. 48 minutes, 19 seconds. And that ties back into the bipartisanship about kind of what the governor wanted us to go through this session. We got 48 minutes and 19 seconds, where in there we proposed a fair solution to this that I think would help cover rental assistance. And that fair solution is to just not take people's money. Let's reduce income tax. Let's take that income tax level down to allow folks to do with it what they want. We hope that they would prioritize their budget, but it's not our deal. That they would prioritize their budget and say, it's important for me to have a place to live. I'm going to take my money and I'm going to put it towards rent. And thank you, those under the Gold Dome who have said, we want you to keep more of your money. Now, in committee, in some of the very sparse commentary that we had in that 48 minutes and 19 seconds, I was told that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, and that's a silly idea. That won't fix any of the problems. It wasn't enough. But it's a start, and it's one of the solutions. And why would we ever keep our citizens from their money and allow them to put it towards rent? That's our solution. Not that it's the only solution, but we had 48 minutes and 19 seconds to bring that forward. So, for those reasons, and not to belabor it any more than we already have, obviously, I would be a no on this bill.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, for your attention on this fine Sunday morning. I'm sure we're all excited to be here. There's been a lot of conversation about the governor's call and what we are meant to do here in Colorado during this special session. There seems to be a lot of confusion about what was in that call and how this bill impacts that call. So instead of paraphrasing, I will read from the executive order, because I think the governor said it best when he asked us to come back for this special session. And guess what? I don't have to read too far in to understand why House Bill 1001 was brought to the table. I'm going to start with the first paragraph, background. With home values rising at historic rates across Colorado, Coloradans face an immediate crisis with a 40% average increase in their property tax bills if property tax bills are not reduced. Taxpayers are facing higher property tax bills, not just this year, but in future years, and these are immediate statewide concerns. Increased property taxes may make it harder for Coloradans to stay in their homes, build wealth, save for the future. Increasing property taxes not only impacts homeowners, but also renters that bear the burden of the increased cost on landlords. Renters are most vulnerable to increased property taxes because they do not benefit the corresponding gain in equity, making it harder for hardworking Colorado renters to thrive and have economic freedom. Paragraph 1. He then goes on to talk about the other provisions in property, HH. If you go to the end of the executive order, last page, so for some people who like to bookend, we see E, concerning rental assistance during the 23-24 fiscal year. And I know my colleagues have read this call over and over and over again. So to act like renters assistance and House Bill 1001 is not squarely within the call is disingenuous. I'd also like to talk about the other relief for renters and property owners in Colorado that was introduced and only spoken for about 43 minutes, as was discussed. In this bill, you see a $1.2 billion impact to the general fund. $1.2 billion. That's unserious. Where is that money coming from? Would we like to close prisons? I know. How about child welfare, relief for seniors? That's where this money is coming from? Health care? $1.2 billion.
Representative Herod, just for the sake of consistency, I want to make sure we're sticking to the rental assistance bill.
I really respect that, Mr. Chair Pro Tem, and I will speak to the bill. So to the bill, eviction filings. This emergency rental assistance program has helped over 100,000 Coloradans avoid homelessness. 100,000, 34% of Coloradans are renters. In fact, rental eviction filings have been up even before the COVID moratorium. In Pueblo County, we saw over 1,000 eviction filings. Logan County, 129. We saw in Weld County, 1,400 eviction filings. This bill will keep renters in their homes and landlords paid. That's what it does. This isn't an 18-month moratorium. This is $30 million additional dollars, a total of $65 million that will go to renters. Now let's talk about cocaine use, okay? Because that was brought up as well. No, this bill does not fund the extracurricular activities of cocaine and other drug use. In fact, this program and the funding from this program goes directly to the landlords that would not have been receiving the funds if rent could not be paid. There's a 1.6% administrative burden on this program. That is all the state is paying to administer what I have been called one of the most efficient programs in the state of Colorado. Our local partners are able to get checks out within days so that we can prevent evictions from happening. We can keep landlords receiving the funds they need to pay their property taxes, to pay the bills, and keep renters in their homes. We also want to have a conversation that sometimes I believe is also disingenuous about the homelessness crisis that we see right outside of our window. This bill keeps renters in their homes and keeps them from having to put up tents out front, be displaced into their cars, or couch surf across Colorado. And I'm not going to even mention the disparaging that happens to our nonprofit partners that are doing yeoman's work, sometimes unfaceable battles to fight this homelessness and displacement crisis that we have right here in Colorado. So let's have a real conversation about this bill, how it actually works, and what we can do for the people of Colorado. I'd like to thank my partner from Douglas County who came down and spoke specifically about this bill, who spoke specifically about real amendments that were brought towards this bill and which weren't. This bill is about renters' assistance. It keeps renters in their homes, and it is directly in the governor's call. I'd like to thank my co-prime sponsor for her work on this bill and for so many others who have worked on rental assistance in Colorado in previous sessions. Thank you for your fight to keep Coloradans in their homes. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Epps.
Thank you, Mr. She said Chair Pro Tem. We'll go with that. I rise in support of HB 23-1001 with thanks to my constituents who remind me that I'm more inclined to come and speak the well when I'm upset about something than when I'm delighted by something. I took that feedback and took it to heart, and so this is something I'm delighted by. You know, we are in on the ancestral land of the Arapaho, the Ute, the Cheyenne, but also every time you come to the Capitol, you're coming to House District 6. Welcome. And I've heard from renters, certainly before the call of this special session, heard from a lot of renters because we have a lot of them here, but I've actually heard from far more homeowners, and if you know me, you know I've kept a log. I've heard from far more homeowners who were not just talking about property tax, but homeowners whose main concern was the cost of living as it relates to renters, whether they were a landlord or otherwise. And one of the unfortunate things that often happens in our discourse is the presentation of a false dichotomy that those who have don't care about those who don't. In supporting Bill number 1, I heard a colleague say earlier, there was a mention of redistribution of wealth. And the phrase that followed said that what we would be doing with this bill would be that those who have more would be assisting those who don't have enough. How delightful. What a gift for us to be able to do exactly that. It is an untruth to think that there is not enough to go around. When we talk about the enough, y'all, housing is everything. Every single issue that we care about, that our communities care about, are tied to folks' access to safe, affordable housing. There's no exceptions to that. In the words of the great late poet Nipsey Hussle, I'll paraphrase him, I've been written all my life. I've been written all my life. I've been a renter all my life. I'll be a renter all my life. And I'm going to close in supporting this bill by mentioning that there's some restaurants around Denver, Pete's Diner, Pete's Kitchen, Pete's Creek. Community member has passed, but he was my first landlord in Denver 12 years ago. Pete was. And there came a time several years ago where I, despite having my way overpriced law degree, was out of a job, had gotten out of a very dangerous relationship, and could not afford my rent, which was actually an incredibly low and reasonable rent, but I didn't have income, so that kind of makes no rent affordable. And I let my landlord know that I was going to be moving out, and he came over to see me, and he asked, "Where are you going to go?" And I had a temporary plan, and it was compassionate underneath, but his genuine question, I know some of you have heard me tell this story about him, but his genuine question was, well, if you can't pay the rent to me, who can you pay it to? And I didn't really have an answer. And he was genuine, and he was being kind, but he was asking me, where are you and your little boy going to go? So when you look at those numbers of evictions, I would have and could have and should have, by all rights, been one more on that eviction list. But my landlord thought that was silly, that I would leave, because if I couldn't pay him, who could I pay? I was able in a couple years to more than pay back what I owed him. And my point, and why this aligns with 1001, is that setting aside how some of us may feel about the very idea of owning land or property entirely, to the extent that we have a system where we have landlords, if everyone had a landlord like Pete Contos, we wouldn't need this sort of bill. But he's not a policy choice. He was a good and kind man who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. But we can't build policy around him. What we can do, and I'm delighted to do, is the only thing wrong here is that it's not enough, right? And that we'll keep working towards it. So thank you to the governor for including this very clearly in the call. Thank you for you on a House side for leading this. We have, one of the benefits of having such a diverse caucus is we have folks for whom rent is real, who will never own a home while others in the body own more than one home. There's no judgment attached to that. But our lived experience, we're not here to be tokenized. We're not here to be the one friend who rents or who's been through a certain experience, but to lend that experience to the creation of good policy. And this bill reflects all of those things, and I'm really, really glad to get to vote for it. Thank you.
Representative Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Is that okay?
That's technically right, yes. Thank you.
Distinctions are important, and I just want to make a couple of distinctions, at least from my heart perspective. I agree that renters need to be assisted. I agree that there are people who are in situations where the questions before them are real and substantial, and that there need to be supports. What I disagree about is the institution and mechanism by which those supports come. And I spoke to this yesterday about the complexity of the social order, and how when you begin to centralize power, when you begin to centralize expectation into the hands of just one social institution, you begin to break down a social order that actually, when working properly and working together, leads to greater and greater flourishing, not just financially, but relationally. And both are important components. The government, the role of government, in my view, as an institution, is to be as a referee. It is not to be a player in the game. These kinds of bills make us a player in the game. And I think to the detriment of our communities. Now, I know that that ideology is not shared by everyone in this building. But I want it to be clear that from my standpoint, yes to the representative from House District 6. I want to see people who come alongside and say, hey, my neighbor needs help. We should help them. We should assist them. But I want the structures to be such that they themselves take it upon themselves to help, instead of expecting this other institution to do it. And the more we build into that system of another institution to do it, the less fabric, the less our community is tied together. Because there's this sense that, hey, that other party will take care of it. I don't need to. And I don't want to incentivize that kind of behavior. I want to incentivize the behavior that says, my neighbor is genuinely in need. What can I do? And I know that it upsets a number of people when my colleague from El Paso County talks about the force of government being used to collect property from one set of people to give to another, but that is in essence what is happening. And we are, by force, saying, you all have to give to this body, and then this body will apportion it out. And I don't mean to be confrontational in this way or contentious, but if you picture it it's almost as if we put a mechanism of force up to the head of one taxpayer and demand that they pay and support this other person. That does not good community make. There's a bitterness that's created in one, sometimes an entitlement that's created in another, and community breaks down. The ability to hear each other breaks down. And I don't want to be part of an institution that facilitates that dynamic. I would much rather be part of an institution that says, we need a certain pool of money to do a certain set of things, meaning administer justice, right? Run our court system. Provide some basic ground rules so that as people interact in varying environments, whether family or business or what have you, they understand some basic rules of the game. Fine. But any additional monies go back to them in a fair way, and then we as people, we as influencers in our community, in our towns, in our cities, I'm in a town. I had a conversation just as an aside yesterday about how my town is very upset with the Department of Transportation because they just added the very first stop light in our community, and it's a big thing. And I was thinking, in my whole district of 5 counties, I think I have 20 stoplights total. But anyways, that's a whole other, off track. I'm gonna blame the baby. Going back, the fact is that I would rather have us as an institution going out into our community, or administering justice, but then we as individual people going out into our communities and saying, hey guys, what can we do? How can we come together as people who know each other, who love each other, who care about this community? What can we do? How can we take ownership? And have that increased pool of funds that have come back to us fairly available in order to care. And so I understand that there is often these, there's a sense that my party is heartless. And I think in part that's because we have not adequately articulated the system that we see that is possible and the benefits that can come from that system and the benefits that are snatched by way of trying to make it simple and efficient and easy and what have you, because we see this need and we want to meet it, and here is a mechanism that can do it. And the question for me and some of my colleagues on my side of the aisle is that the mechanism that we should use? Or are we losing things that are even more important by using it? So for those reasons, I have to vote no. Thank you.
Representative Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. It's kind of difficult to come at the end of this when a lot of great speakers have been up here, especially after my co-prime. And plus, I know we have a lot to do today, so, but I feel compelled to come up here. And first, I want to talk a little bit about who was just here previously. When I first came to this chamber, January of 2022, she came down to the well on a Friday and kind of did a, her It's a Friday, we're lovely to see you kind of thing. And I immediately knew that we were like kindred spirits, because I am very much, even though we are like probably pretty diametrically opposed on the political spectrum, we have this same place in our heart of wanting to acknowledge those things. I think she's a softie like me, and so I have a bond with her, a kinship, that I know she feels too. And I think what's difficult for me, and I talked about this in committee, is that when I leave this building, I drive east on Colfax every night to go home. I see the tents, of course, heading down here closer to the Capitol as I get to my district, which is just past Colorado and closer to Yosemite. And I mentioned when I come home at night, I see people, tucking themselves into doorways, looking for a warm place to sleep at night. I've literally seen people huddling under bushes. And I am a softie, and when I see that, I feel like a failure as a community member, as a neighbor, and then now in this role as a legislator, because somebody is sleeping on the street while I'm in here having any possibility of an opportunity to do something about it. And I'm a person, I have 4 cats in my house. It's because I found them all in my backyard. If I see something that's suffering or needs a warm place, I'm like, if I didn't have a husband, I'd probably have 100 cats at my house. I cannot pick up every person who is sleeping in a doorway and bring them home with me. But do I think about it as I drive by and feel like such a jerk as I'm heading home to a warm bed? Yes. Yes, I absolutely do. And so I care very deeply about these issues, and I happen to think I can't do it by myself. There's a limit to how many cats I can have in my house. I cannot bring people into my house, so I need larger nonprofits. And I need this government that we have so that we pool together our resources to help the people that I can't pick up in my car every night on my way home and give a warm place to stay. So I want to start there. Secondly, I am a renter, and it doesn't mean that I only care about renters. I have plenty of friends and family who are homeowners and are interested in property tax reductions. I care about them too. I know that homeowners are hard workers, that they have worked very hard to have, get where they are and have what they have. I also know that renters are very hard workers. So to me, this pitting of homeowners against renters is very sad. I don't like it. I'm here to help everybody in my district, of which there are renters and which there are homeowners. I'm here to help people all the way down in Trinidad, all the way down in Durango, wherever there is need. I want it filled. I'm not here to gobble up funds for Denver Metro or Aurora. I'm here to make sure that anybody who needs a safe place to sleep at night, that we can give them those resources. And so I just want to say, it's hard to sit in my chair back there, and I do listen. And it's hard to have our bill, which we worked so hard on crafting, which there was a lot of stakeholding, absolutely. We've been on Zooms trying to connect everybody for, like across the country and all over the place. To have it mischaracterized, it's just painful. And I just want to let everybody know that the money that goes into this rental assistance, it goes directly to landlords through the court or paid directly to landlords. This isn't going into the hands of tenants and then they can decide at that point whether to still pay the rent or not. It is making landlords whole, because when we do that, they allow people to live in their properties. So I don't want this to be treated as some kind of handout to people who you think are going to be irresponsible with it, which, just let me say, while I don't even want to give credence to the comments by mentioning it again in committee, the comments about people needing rental assistance, being on cocaine, was beyond offensive for a community like mine, and for a person like myself, who is a renter, could have utilized this service in the past. Who knows what my life is like? I could need this assistance very soon. Who knows? And to have any person who needs that assistance treated like it's because of some moral failing is really appalling when I look at my neighbors and my community and communities across the state. And I don't think that that's how we need to talk about these things. And what makes me concerned about it is, how can we work together to solve a problem when you don't even understand the problem if you think it's just people who are on cocaine who need rental assistance. And that's not even talking about the prevalence and use of drugs amongst all income classes. So I just want to make that clear. When you say something like that, you're saying something like that about a colleague, which is me, which you shouldn't do out of decorum, but you shouldn't do it out of basic humanity, in my opinion. So I'm very proud to be on this bill. I'm very proud to work with my co-prime. This is a great bill, and I urge everyone to vote yes. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 23B 1001 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Schiebel, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. For those participating remotely, Representative Bockenfeld, how do you vote? Representative Bockenfeld votes no. Representative Kipp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Kipp votes yes. Representative Ortiz, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ortiz votes yes. Representative Soper, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Soper votes no. Representative English, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative English votes yes. Representative Judah, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Judah votes yes. Representative McCormick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McCormick votes yes. Representative Doherty, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Doherty votes yes. I vote yes.
Joseph is also here, and she votes yes.
I misheard, but what did I do wrong? Representative Joseph votes yes.
She votes yes.
My apologies. Thank you, Representative Woodrow. You're fined $5, and you could save that if you bring donuts for everyone tomorrow. Please close the machine. With 42 aye votes, 18 no votes, 5 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1001 is passed. Co-sponsors. I would like to co-sponsor. Remote witness, I'm sorry, not witnesses, remote legislators. I see Representative Kipp, Representative McCormick, Representative Doherty, Representative English, Representative Joseph. You're covering your face with your hand, Representative Joseph. Perhaps that's why I didn't see you before. Representative Ortiz and Representative Judah, all co-sponsor. Did I miss anyone? Representative English, I'm sorry. I think I've got you, Representative English. Okay, please close the machine. Majority Leader Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Speaker Pro Tem. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today. One moment, members. The House will come back to order. I just wanted to provide a quick announcement on what's happening. We are waiting on the Senate to complete their work on third reading today. Once they do, they'll send the committee reports across. We'll reopen the desk, read the reports across, assign the bills to committee, and then we will break for committee at that time. Thank you. The House will go back into recess.